So it's been known for a little while now that in Year 10 Season 4, the next season of Rainbow Six Siege, Hibana, Maverick, and Thermite are all confirmed to be getting a buff. This is something I initially learned when I was able to do a Q&A with the developers, and then they would go on that same day to officially confirm this in one of their blog posts. Now the reason for this is to make these operators more in line with Ace, who is seen as the king of the hard breachers, but they don't want to nerf Ace, so instead of this, they are going to be improving the other ones, which is a really good philosophy that they said they are going to be doing going forward, prioritizing buffs over nerfs. So I posed the question to you guys as to what do you think these buffs are going to be? I have some in my head already as to what I think these buffs are going to personally be, but you also have to remember all of this is going to coincide with a new remaster coming this season as well, which based on the fact that Ubisoft said that there's going to be some changes to EMPs as well, and due to some Battle Pass lore which hints at Osa working on Thatcher's gadget, many of us do believe that this remaster is going to be for Thatcher himself. So that would mean that not only would primary wall denial be getting some changes, but as would hard breachers as well. So let me quickly run through the changes I think will happen to Thermite, Hibana, and Maverick. Firstly, for Thermite, I honestly do not know how you would change him. The most substantial way you could change his gadget would be to either give him another exothermic charge, make the blast radius of his exothermic charges larger, or honestly, what I think they may be doing to Thermite would be giving him probably a ballistic shield primary. This is something that was teased to come to Thermite years ago. It was never officially cancelled. So the fact that we are now confirmed to be getting a Thermite buff next season, technically this was something that was hinted a while ago, and this was around the time that the shield rework was announced. So very likely the reason why they didn't move forward with this was because shields were quite overpowered. So are we at a stage where we could give Thermite a ballistic shield, and this would be the bog standard one which Fuse has with no special gadget? Maybe. It's definitely not possible to rule this out that his buff could be a third option primary weapon, being the ballistic shield. And I guess we could mention, not just for Thermite, but for all three of these ops, they could get grenades. That is a big thing for any hard breacher in the game to get, so even if Thermite's buff was simply frag grenades, that would be a very strong buff. But I don't think they'll do that. Hibana, I think they'll either just give her more Cairo pellets or make the detonation time faster. I definitely think a faster detonation time would be really great for Hibana. And I'm not saying to the extent that she was like in Rainbow Six Extraction, but she was definitely really fun to use in Extraction because of how fast they detonated. And for Maverick, I think, again, he could maybe even just get more fuel, or the return of nades, which would fit really well with him specifically. But I think the best thing they could honestly do to Maverick would be allow him to have a longer range on his blowtorch, meaning that you can just make holes from a further distance and don't necessarily have to be right up close and personal with the wall. Now, you could balance it out that if you're standing further back, the hole is smaller, so you do still have that incentive to get closer, but that would definitely make Maverick a bit more flexible in that sense. So those are just a few ideas off the top of my head. Now, let's have a look at what you, the viewers, have commented on here, Twitter, and Discord. Make sure you're subbed so you get these posts like that and you can interact with the videos. There's obviously going to be some joking ones in here, but there's a lot of people who have their own opinions. So, like this one, Thermite will get a Tachanka helmet so he won't necessarily get spawn peaked. That's actually pretty funny. That one gets a heart. Thermite will get a rocket launcher. Again, like a bit satirical. But there's a lot of good ones in here, and some I agree with and some I maybe don't agree with. So we have, like, you know, Thermite finally getting a shield. That's something I 100% think is going to happen. Hibana gets an extra set of explosives, or they go off faster. Again, I feel like that one is very likely. Maverick gets an extra charge with more range to make breaching safer. That's actually quite impressive how similar this guy's one was to me, especially since this comment was only 3 hours ago. But yeah, this one by Kane, I 100% agree. Like, I feel like these are the most likely that we're going to get. Like, Thermite shield, Hibana just more utility and faster, and then Maverick a bit more breaching safety. Like, I think that's likely, or maybe even a nade with Maverick. I hope it isn't too much loadout orientated stuff. If it is, I'm stumbling on my words, then I hope it's good, but I really hope it's more gadget based. But Thermite, I think shield's fair. See what this guy says. Again, Thermite ballistic shield, like everyone is saying. I think that's a bit of a common consensus that he should get that. Hibana, more pellets. Maybe reducing the amount needed to open hatches. Okay, so that's interesting, but you have to watch for that because you may have to balance other hard breachers as well. I get what you mean, but I feel like Hibana already can open enough hatches. I feel like the issues that Hibana has, one of them isn't the fact that she can't open enough hatches. Like, she's good at that. She has other issues, which I think need to be addressed. But I like the second part here saying if the pellets had a larger blast zone, maybe you can open up walls a bit better. I agree. I feel like trying to open up a breach with Hibana is so, like, frustrating. So I agree with that part. Here we go. And Maverick, more fuel. So yeah, I feel like a lot of us are really struggling to think what we could actually do with Maverick. Even I struggled myself. Right, this person offered something other than giving Thermite a shield. Faster wall placement and an extra charge. The faster wall placement, I feel like, isn't really necessary, especially since they changed the whole electricity thing to not damage you anymore. So you can somewhat already pre-place your Thermite charge whilst you time an EMP, and then you can just have it already on the wall the moment the bandit charge goes off. So honestly, I don't even think he needs faster placement. An extra Thermite charge, which 3 Thermite charges be too strong? I honestly don't think so, but I feel like that's a bit of a boring buff for Thermite. Like, I feel like he doesn't need that. Again, with Hibana, quicker withdrawal and extra detonators. I think all of us in this comment section are definitely in a consensus with what should happen to Hibana. And Maverick, faster fire burning and extra canisters, and maybe, don't want to say it like that, maybe bigger burning holes. I actually disagree about burning holes because I feel like Maverick is meant to be sort of nimble. He's meant to make small holes. He's meant to be stealthy. I actually think if you made Maverick holes bigger, you'd be nerfing Maverick and kind of going against what's good for his gadget and what makes him good. So I honestly disagree with making them bigger. I think them being smaller benefits Maverick and his entire playstyle. Another satirical one. Thermite, be able to place multiple charges at once and possibly have a time decrease. Okay, so that's a new angle. Multiple charges at once. So you can place both of your Thermite charges and then detonate them at the same time. Pretty good idea. Again, somewhat achievable just by already placing the first one, then rotating around to the other wall, and then placing that the moment you detonate the first one. So again, I don't think it's going to change much. I genuinely think it's just going to be a shield for Thermite. Unless you are thinking right now, watching this video, something else they could do, I genuinely just cannot think of anything else they can do to Thermite, but maybe that's just me. Again, Hibana, so more time-based stuff for Hibana. I think everyone is just focused on time-based. And Maverick range as well, impossible reduction to audio. I think he's quiet enough. I think his audio's fine. But I like the idea of range. I've seen that one pop up a few times as well. This person says, I imagine most of them will have to do with the loadout, as there aren't many ways to buff their abilities without breaking them or giving them a massive rework that completely changes them. That's actually a really great comment. I honestly agree with this one the most. Like, as much as I don't want it to be loadout based, I do agree with this one and feel like, yeah, it may most likely be loadouts because there are so many consequences to buffing even minor aspects of their gadgets. So honestly, I agree. I feel like it may honestly be more loadout leaning. We've already said that with Thermite with the shield. It could be the same for Hibana and Maverick as well. We have another one saying give Thermite an extra charge. Hibana, I think, is getting a quality of life change, allowing you to change the pellet pattern 90 degrees. Okay, that would be good. Yeah, I wouldn't be against that. Maverick, just give him infinite gas because the amount of times I've accidentally burned a canister is annoying. I don't feel like he deserves infinite gas. But again, I wouldn't be against an increase. I mean, would the infinite gas be overpowered? Probably. Like, I guess so. I don't know. Maybe that's up for you guys to decide. The Thermite and Hibana charge will blast the wall open and pieces will fly forward and damage anyone it hits. This is actually very similar to the concept I made for a buff for Sledge, where if you're on the receiving end of his vertical play and the shrapnel hits you, you take damage and then you get like the limping effect for a few seconds, like the one similar to when you pull yourself out of a frost mat. I think that's a cool idea. I wouldn't say that's a buff to Hibana or Thermite. I think that would just be a rework to the mechanic of hard breaching itself. But that's a fun one. You thought outside the box with that one. I like that one. Now, as you continue forward as well, you'll see a common trend will be Thermite Shield, extra Thermite charge, Thermite Shield. This person actually says give it to Maverick. I disagree. I think Thermite suits it better. Thermite Shield, multiple again. That's the second time we've seen that one pop up. But yeah, mainly a lot of Thermite Shield, and again, a lot of stuff with Hibana is just make her less clunky, and then Maverick is more fuel. So I think a lot of us are kind of in agreement of what should actually happen to these operators. And honestly, I agree. Like, I think we should get the shields. I think Maverick should get more gas. I think Hibana should get more sort of flexibility as well. And of course, we don't have to wait very long for this. The season reveal isn't too crazy far away. So yeah, honestly, very exciting. Again, regardless of how big or small it is, I'm just excited to see changes come to these operators. And make sure you're subscribed, because we'll have all of this news covered the moment it drops. And yeah, I'll be your one-stop shop for Year 10 Season 4. Now, I also posed the very same question on my Discord, and let's see what some of the responses are. We got Thermite getting a new primary. I agree. I think it would be a shield rather than a different weapon, though, because I think his AR is fine. Hibana's shotgun getting a telescopic scope. Yeah, why not, man? Why not? Hibana gains a tilt option like extraction. Yeah, I showed that a second ago. The extraction Hibana is definitely a lot more fluid, but it also has less customizable options, I guess is the best way of saying it as well. So if they can get like a nice middle ground between the siege Hibana and the extraction Hibana, I think a lot of players would definitely enjoy that. I just want to notice though that there is a trend that people just want Hibana to be less clunky. So keep that in mind. Thermite gets shield again. Pellets cook faster and blow slightly bigger for Hibana. Maverick burns properly. I was gonna say ploppily there. I think Maverick's fine, honestly. Like, I don't even think that would be a buff anyway. If they were to fix anything there, that would just be a quality of life update. But I don't even think... I think they're pretty good these days. I think they're pretty fluid. But maybe that's just me. Thermite will still breach even as tricked, just not fully. Okay, that's interesting. So you can't necessarily fully trick a Thermite. I don't think... I think tricking's fine. I don't think that should happen to Thermite. I like the idea of that, though. Maybe that gets played around with in the future, maybe with another hard breacher, like a new hard breacher, but I don't think that would be the case with Thermite. Faster pellet time again, and Maverick more efficient fuel. It would be cool if hard breachers could make a hole in the floor and destroy the beams below them. That's way too much for just a buff. That is an entire game-changing operator. That's a concept I've wanted for an op for years, and it simply won't happen just because of how it can just destroy maps and how their layouts are. There would have to be a lot of restrictions if this was the case. Like, it wouldn't be allowed to be by a breach or a doorway or a window, because then you'd fall through if you jumped through them, and it would also just block off how rooms work. There'd be so many different like variables that we would have to do that. I'm not saying it's impossible, and I'm not saying I don't want it, because I do, but there's so much stuff in the way stopping that from happening. Thermite shield again. It'd be nice if they lower the M4's recoil. Interesting. I think the M4 is pretty strong. And maybe make the torch quieter. Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. You don't know what else they would do with Mav. I think Maverick's fine. I think his torch is fine. I think his gun's fine. I don't really think there's much issues there. Maverick could potentially get where his gadget can destroy other gadgets, which could in turn be an answer to bandit tricking. I'm not really sure what this one means, because his gadget does destroy other gadgets. I actually replied with that. Nice little spelling mistake there by me. I don't think he followed up on that, though, so I'm a bit... maybe I misinterpreted his question, but bandit does destroy other gadgets. I mean, Maverick. So, yeah, I don't know. Thermite has a new gadget called the Super Nitro Cell that, when activated, blows up the entire map. You know what? Sure, why not? If we ever get Phobos, he should have something like that. I think a good buff for Mav would be to let him have more range. I agree. The range can help with C4, blah, 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 and the hatch just doesn't waste so much fuel. I agree. Hibana, add like 5 more bullets in her gun. She runs out fast. That's fair. And maybe for her pellets, have it on some kind of scale. The more you have, the longer it will take compared to 2. Oh, okay. So I see what you mean. So if you're only shooting 2 pellets, they'll explode pretty much instantly. But if you're shooting 6 pellets, it takes like how it currently does. That's a good idea. That's the most unique one I've seen for Hibana so far. I like that one. If we do give Thermite a shield, he would technically be a better or more supportive Blizz. Better gun, same health speed, has a range flash that can stun multiple people. That's true, he does have secondary flashes, so maybe we would have to remove them. To make it fair and add some lore, he's the newest shield op, so he isn't that comfortable when using the shield compared to Monty. So he reloads slower, can't throw stuff behind the shield, and won't be able to activate gadgets behind the shield. Nah, I disagree. I think that adds inconsistency. And again, narratively, I feel like Thermite, especially being the leader of redhammer, should be equally as capable of using a shield as the other ops. Thermite finally gets a shield. Hibana pellet launchers could gain another 12 pellets. And Maverick, his blowtorch can make it possible to spread like actual fire. Okay, the actual fire, I guess like Capitao and like Goyo sort of thing, is an interesting idea. I don't know how you would truly make that work, but I kind of like the idea of it. But then again, you just have to rework the entire mechanic of like wood catching on fire and XYZ, which isn't really a thing in this game. But regardless, I am really excited to see what it is. And I hope that like the reception of this and how Ubisoft see how we react to it, it gives them more reason to keep buffing. I mean, even look at the bandit one, for example. All he got was the Keratos secondary pistol. Yet the amount of buzz that caused on social media, like I made TikToks that done well, the videos I made that done well than average, like buff content not only does well for me as a content creator, like people love seeing that stuff, but then it gets people more excited for the game. And you know, it's one big massive circle. If me as a content creator gets more traction because of that, more people are then going to be interested. That video is going to do better in the algorithm. Then people who may not even play Siege see that, and it gets them into Siege. That's another player in Siege. People come back to try the buffs and stuff like that. It's all one big circle. When I do better, the game does better. When the game does better, I do better. When the game does better, you guys have more enjoyment. So it benefits everyone, stuff like this. So maybe it will be a bit smaller than some people are expecting, or maybe it may be a bit bigger. But regardless, all of these operators are getting a buff to some stretch of the imagination, and that makes me excited. And I want to see what more of you guys think this buff is going to be. Drop it in the comment section below. What do you think is going to happen to Thermite, Maverick, and Hibana? Drop a like on this video if you did enjoy. Subscribe if you are new. Just catch you on the next one. My dog is barking in the background. Have a good one, guys. I'll let him sing it out. Oh, I think he's done. Oh, no, he's still going. Are we done? Oh, no, we're going still. Okay, I think we're done.